Hi, good evening. We're going to go live here in about 1 minute at 7 p.m. I'm Jack Bareilles from AC Samoa up in Humboldt County, and Nick Luson will be helping moderate this, be showing the comments, and we hope to answer some of your questions and hope to set you guys up to hopefully get some grants. Talk to you in a few moments. All right. Good evening. I'm Jack Bareilles. I'm going to take my glasses off so you can see my eyes. Sorry about the glare. I'm Jack Bareilles from AC Samoa up in Humboldt County. Nick Luson from NorCal Premier is helping to moderate this. He'll be texting me. You'll hear some beep or some dings. I'll mute that. But Nick will be able to show comments as well. And he's adding the attachment to the comments. I'm sorry, he's adding to the comments the attachment with today's handout for you. The handout is just some links and some resources that you might want to access for pursuing grants for your own club. And if you have questions, please use the comments feature here on Facebook Live, and I will see those, or Nick will see those and text me to make sure that I address them. Feel free to ask questions in real time. I will go through them as soon as we can. And our kind of overview, I'm trying to give a bit of an introduction tonight. Grants aren't magic, but they don't always give you what you want, or you can't find ones that are necessarily exactly what you want. So it does require a little flexibility on that. Our topics for tonight: where to search for grants, big grants versus small grants, how to put together a grant application. Does the funder really want to make a soccer grant? And that leads to the discussion of how can we tie in fitness, how can we tie in public health, child's health, activities and family things to help maybe leverage what we're doing. What data do grant funders ask for, where to find it, and then local grants versus national. I mean, we all love to get a grant from the U.S. Soccer Foundation, but they don't give many of them. And there's a lot more questions and answers as well. And we will be done here at 8 o'clock, and then following up, I believe it's next week, and I'll have some homework for you in between. So thank you very much. Let's get going here. So I apologize because without my glasses, I got to squint here to see it, but I think we're good to go. When you see the link from Nick there as a Google Drive, help yourself. All right, where to search for grants. On the handout that Nick gave you, there is a link on where to search for grants. I'll be honest, it's, as a professional, call myself that, as a professional grant person in the schools, there are different kinds of grants, and some of the things that for me, I spend most of my time on the federal website and on the California Department of Education website. That doesn't apply to us in the soccer grant world. So we really have to look for community and national foundations. One thing, I gave an example down here, the Target soccer grants. Not because, and they're past their deadline right now. They'll go up again here, I think, early next year. But one reason I use Target as an example is different corporations that have facilities or a real footprint in your community are sometimes really one of the best opportunities. We're in the northwest corner of California, and about 3.5 hours north of us up into Oregon is Grants Pass, a city not much larger than Eureka, where I live. The Dutch Brothers Coffee Company, which now has 500 or 600 different, more than that, different shops and locations, they're big soccer fans, and so they're supporting that particular club, the Grants Pass Unified or whatever they're called, and that's great. But we don't all have Dutch Brothers. We don't all have Starbucks or Boeing in our hometown. So in the presentation materials, the League of California Community Foundations is a good place to look. If you just search for soccer grants, you're going to find things that you're going to find the U.S. Foundation, Soccer Foundation grant. You will find things from companies that are trying to sell you stuff, but you may or may not find anything that is that is particularly useful. Going to your local, finding your local community foundation is usually your best bet. Now, there are tens of thousands of foundations in California. These are just nonprofits. And we're all 501c3s for the most part. We're all nonprofits for the most part. But in your area, there should be some kind of clearinghouse home foundation that might help manage different funds. My example is the Humboldt Area Foundation. They serve both my county, the county to the north of us, and the county to the east of us, and have multiple funds, including a couple of small soccer funds that we have written for in the past. Your local foundation most likely will not have a soccer fund, but they could have something for kids in a certain community, a $3,000 grant, a $2,000 grant, and the opportunity to link with other people and other funders. And they're always a good place to start. And so I would encourage you to look at the League of California Community Foundations, find somebody near your location, and frankly just call them up or email, whatever you prefer, and explain the situation. You're pursuing funding for your soccer club. I would emphasize the health component of it, how it's good for students and for kids. Also, it could be that we're trying to branch out to more children who are low income, and I'll get to how you might want to look at that in a few minutes. But you kind of explain to them what you're looking for and start building a relationship. If nothing else, as funders might approach them, they're going to say, oh, we know a club that really would like to talk to you. Another way to find grants is calling your local schools. And if you just call your local elementary school or high school and ask, hey, who's giving grants, you might strike out. But if you call your local principal or somebody you know and say, hey, we're looking for grants, and if he or she knows, that's great. But if not, ask, well, who in the district is responsible, or who locally is able to find, or who's chasing money for grants. And not all districts have somebody, but county offices and all of our counties have them, usually have somebody who might be able to. And your local principal, that person with whom you have a relationship, might be able to help you find out. Boys and Girls Club are another good example of organizations that are grant driven. If you have things, we have CASA here locally. These are people you can talk to, just these local connections you have. Interestingly, my club, we do a lot with foster kids, with foster youth, because there are people in the club who have family history with that, or know people who were foster children when they were younger. And so we've been able to get small amounts of funding, but impactful, to run winter programs or things during vacations for foster families and other kids to come in for free. And it's just a way to do some community service. There are plenty of for-profit firms. California Grant Watch is one of them. Fundsnetservices.com. They typically make their money in one of two ways. They might charge you for a subscription to actually see the grants, and there's a benefit to that. I'll be perfectly honest. That saves you from having to go out and try to Google search for grants all the time. Or they want to charge you to write a grant for you, and that's a different discussion. But in regards to getting a subscription, if your club has the finances and the wherewithal to spend $100, $150 on a subscription, then this might be one worth trying. The drawback with California Grant Watch is that their search filters are just not very good. And so if I type in California and I type in grants, I'm getting grants from Southern California, Central California, only Bay Area, only schools or only communities, within 10 miles of a Lockheed Martin um, aerospace plant or something like that. And so it's not ideal, but there isn't an ideal, and so it might be worth it. Funds that I just looked at a couple times, they're more of the same. Let's see any questions here while I'm trying to look through something. All right, I guess we're good so far. Okay, excellent. The question of big grants. Well, I'm sorry. Let's go through the rest of this list here. So, U.S. Soccer Foundation. These are tremendous grants. They're not going to get you a turf field, but they might help a portion of the cost. The catch is that they only do them once or twice a year. Additionally, they really look for significant usage. A couple of years ago, I was back in DC for schoolwork and had a chance to go by and meet with them. And we went through the numbers of players who were using the facilities. And you're looking at thousands of kids coming into these facilities. And so it's for a rural community like myself or my community, that was just, there's just no way we can touch that. And so because of that, if you do have the demographics, high poverty and free and reduced lunch levels in your schools, if you do have the numbers of players, it becomes an opportunity to get partial funding. But for instance, one of the things they do, or the field turf or astroturf people do, is they'll run what they call a grant program, and it's really a discount where you will get some funding, but mainly it's a discount on agreed upon vendor material. So if you want lights, your U.S. Soccer Foundation grants, they have a prescribed vendor. If you want turf, it was field turf a few years ago. I don't know who it is now. I haven't looked. But you are basically locked into hiring or purchasing your materials from that firm, and they might give you 1/3 of the money you need to do what you're really trying to do. And that's certainly exciting, but for it to really have effect, and frankly to increase your chances, you're much better off having some of your financing already put together. And that's where a local foundation or other vendors, a corporate vendor, may be willing to, would be very impactful. They could say, we've got half the money, you help us with the next half, and you're likely to get that. The target grants are just a good grant to apply for. The U.S. Soccer Coaches Foundation grants, it's a training grant. They will come and they'll pay for coach training, and if you've got rec coaches or you've got lots of I'll say silver and bronze level coaching, and you want to improve your the overall pool of your coaches, which is always an important thing, especially NorCal does such a good job supporting it. These are great opportunities, but it's not. I'm sorry, it's just you're not going to. Rarely will we find exactly what we want, and that's just part of this. There are usually conditions or limitations. The second bullet point, big grants versus small grants. The funny part is, it's in my work, it's as much work to write a grant for $1 million as it is to write one for $20,000 or $30,000. And it's great. I'd love to just write big ones all the time because you only have to hit a couple of them, but there are fewer of them. And so finding those small, impactful grants in your community that allow you to push out some of your alumni, maybe, or some of your coaches into the local schools, or summer programs through your Parks and Rec, you can really impact a lot of kids. You also raise your profile. And so there's a lot to be said for small grants. There's an example that Nick posted there that is from our local Eureka Rotary Club, which I submitted a couple months ago. And we didn't get it, but I'll talk to them and find out, and we'll resubmit it. And we'll go through kind of the putting together on that, what it is. And sometimes with these small funders, it's what's written is one thing, but you're competing, that Rotary grant, I'm sure we were competing with Betty Chin locally, who serves the homeless, with foster youth, with CASA, with other organizations that Food for People and things like that. So it's important that we have to really keep selling the idea that this is good for kids. This is potentially life-changing for kids as a way for them to get on a path to go to college and have the academic support in college to get all their classes and get the coaching, but the academic coaching they need to be successful. But it is a process. In the next term, how to put together a grant application. I'm going to grab my grant here. One sec, please. So partway down is just this Rotary Club of Humboldt Small Grants Program application. You see the numbers are they're pretty small, $500 to $2,000, maximum of $3,000. We went for $3,000 just because. But this is interesting, and you look, and this is not unique. They say these are one-time funds, not intended for ongoing operations. So we have to be very tactical in what we decide to do, and then they give their, in this case, their award considerations, their process, all that. Again, I'll be retooling this. The next page just talks about the thing, our contact information. But for your clubs, they ask something about yours. And I used on the third page here, please tell us a little about your organization, service, and mission to the community. I pulled it off of our website. And just, here's our mission statement. Here's kind of a little bit of history about us. What makes us unique? How are we trying to help the local community? You see ours, one of our core beliefs from the beginning is focusing on fostering the love of physical activity, obesity reduction, and at-risk youth diversion. Well, not surprisingly, one of our founding